Hi guys, welcome back to GP Reactions. I hope you're well, hope you're having a great day, and as always thanks to everybody that has subscribed. So I'm now going to be reacting to a track by a band called the Kissing the Pink, and the track in question is The Last Film. Kissing the Pink were formed in London in 1980, and the band consisted of Nicholas White-Cross on guitars and vocals, John Kingsley Hall on keyboards and synths, George Stewart on keys and vocals, Josephine Wells on sax and vocals, Steve Cusack on drums, percussion and vocals, Peter Barnett on bass, violin, vocals, and Sylvia Griffin on vocals. So it sounds like a lot of the band members of this group do take that. So I'm expecting kind of harmonies with this. I can't remember if I've ever heard this track before. It was released on the 5th of March 1983 and peaked at number 19 in the UK Top 40 from the 1983 album Naked. And yeah, like I said, I'm not sure what to expect from this. I'll let you know if I've heard it before. I'm pretty sure that if it had reached number 19 in the UK Top 40, I'm sure I should have heard it. So you know what, without further ado, there's only one way to find out. I'm going to click play, and this is the official video, so, you know, touch wood, I hope it doesn't get blocked, but you never quite know, even with these older, more or less commercial tracks or more obscure tracks from bands. So yeah. Okay, that drum intro, I've definitely heard this track before. Never seen this video though, but I'm now thinking about, I got a flash of Top of the Pops in my mind's eye then, so I'm thinking I may have seen this as a studio performance on there, so I'm just going to take that back anyway to the beginning. Sorry to pause it there. I'm only doing this just for copyright purposes, but I love the intensity of this song. I think they all seemed quite anxious, like while they're playing, but very, very intense while they're playing these instruments. And I'm beginning to remember now that this was the same on Top of the Pops. They kind of filled the entire stage with their percussion, their drums. This is one of those videos that really does have that feel of its time, but with the music itself is slightly quirky, not conforming to any trends of the early 80s. Yeah, great video. Let me just take that back. So that was Kissing the Pink with the last film, and that was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that. It's the end of that just felt, it felt very dark but very euphoric, as if the as if a person in it had somehow come to a decision, and they kind of knew what was going to happen, but then they stood up and faced it. Yeah, it's such a really unusual song, very dark and militaristic feel to it with the drumming and stuff, like a marching military band. I got the feeling that the this was about either somebody on death row, who was given, that last request, and they said, I don't mind watching. Let me watch one of these old black and white films or something, or their favourite film or something like that. Or it was, I can imagine like soldiers watching a black and white film before they go to fight, which would be a really odd sort of situation. But it felt like this was their last film of, I mean, obviously, as the title said, the last film that they're ever going to watch, because what comes after that film is triumph or death, and with that like euphoric keyboards right at the end, it felt like whether it be death or triumph in the end, it didn't really matter. It's how that person felt as they were either stepping out of the trenches or they were getting strapped into that chair. It's how the person felt about what comes next that mattered. But yeah, it was really, really great song. I loved, I think it was Sylvia Griffin's vocals. It could have been Josephine Wells, but I love Sylvia Griffin's vocals. And I think it was a cello that, or like a flute that she was playing. That was really, really effective. That stood out all the way through this track, along with the drumming, and that the keys played a sort of minor part, I thought, up until the end when they really came into their own. But yeah, I loved the flute. I don't know if it is a cello or flute. A cello is like a violin, isn't it? Just so shows what I know about musical instruments. But yeah, the vocals were really, really Sylvia Griffin's vocals at the end. They felt very pure and childlike, and it was almost reflected how maybe a soldier would feel, or the camaraderie and stuff. It's fair up until a point you have to step out by yourself, knowing that it's just you against the universe, really, and whatever comes next will be in the lap of the gods, or just be down to pure luck. And I guess that the film represents the last point of of civilization for you before you go and on to whatever comes next. What a fantastic song. I'll just flick through the lyrics quickly. In the last film I ever saw, they wore suits and they wore ties. In the last film I ever saw, they kept the change and they told lies. So all of the things that we assume is civilized. And it's interesting that there's a sort of direct contradiction between it almost feels very civilized. They wore suits and ties, but then it shows the corruption of our civilization. They keep things, they steal things, they tell lies. In the last film I ever saw, their words were short and so sincere. I thought of home, my life was there. It was the last film I ever saw. So yeah, short and sincere. Is that making you then think of their parents, perhaps, how their parents might talk to them, and then you're thinking about home, and you're thinking about the really mundane things that you possibly took for granted, and now they could be a thing that you'll never be able to revisit. And they're telling me lies. They're telling me lies. Their voice was sharp, no so clear, and while they talk and grow thin, I thought of home, my life was there. It was the last film there I ever saw. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really great. I think there's a sudden understanding when you're faced with possible death situation that things become very, very clear in your mind about what is right, about perhaps where you should have been, but maybe not where you are at that point. But I guess it's like a conscious way of having your life flash before you, and certain things, are signposted along that life that tell you where you are, where you've been, where you should be right now, where you wish you were, and all the things that are dear to you. Really interesting song. And I didn't know what this song was going to be like until I heard it and remembered it. And it's one of those fantastic gems that I completely forgotten about from my time in the early 80s. And I think this is why sometimes I look back at 1983 and 82 with such fondness. And then I think, but I couldn't be that fond about, I don't know, Spandau Ballet Gold or Madness Wings of a Dove. And the fondness comes because within the big meat and potatoes of these big groups, you've got the little spices that make up these quirky, unusual one-off songs, and they really help bind the whole thing together like some bloody great big E number. And that's what gives us that buzz of nostalgia when we look back on these tracks. And this is 100% definitely one of those that I really need to download this or something. I'm still quite antiquated in in how I'll actually, I don't go on Spotify and stuff like that. I would download music from Amazon and buy it there. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to listening to this. And because it's so relevant, it's congruent with the time of year it probably was around. So 5th of March, yeah. So we're only sort of into the second week of March, and it feels very relevant, and it's kind of tweaked so many nostalgic chords within me that I feel very good about listening to it. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Please join me in the comments below if you have any thoughts or feelings about it. And yeah, till next time, take care. I'll have more music coming real soon. I'm really apologise about the list I made. I had full intentions to go through that list and do some great music from that. But I'm going to try and take this music as it comes, and for sure there'll be some really good stuff in here that you guys have heard, and hopefully there'll be some new stuff that neither of us heard. So yeah, till next time, have a great day, take care of yourselves, have a great week.